got the slides now. Yes, okay, great. We've all got the slides. Okay, so I won't go through all that again, but you probably didn't need the information on that anyway. The presentation overview now. So first of all, I know people will have heard this last time if you did join us for the GLP-1 medications, just a quick run through of what the medications do and just side effects that you need to watch out for and maybe managing some symptoms if you're feeling those. Then I'll get into today's topic, which is the nutrition basics. And go through the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, which is a great foundation of good nutrition and how you can apply that to your everyday eating. And then my recommendations to finish off and a little bit of time for questions and answers. All right, so quickly going through just your GLP-1 medication. Sorry if you've heard this. So GLP-1 medications work to help your body give the right conditions for weight loss. And they do this by working with your insulin, which is your hormone that is inside the body that helps you store the food that you've eaten. So it will increase that hormone and help you store and use your food more efficiently. Another way that it does work is using the glucose production pathway. It actually slows it down so your body doesn't make its own glucose, makes it more sensitive to the stuff you're eating and not making its own. It works on your stomach, so as you eat your food, it will stay within the gastric area, so your stomach area, for a little bit longer, absorbing more nutrition and making you feel a little bit fuller. And then it will increase satiety, which that word is just a fancy word to say you get more satisfaction out of smaller meals or what you are eating, and that works within the brain. So it actually stops you from craving and thinking about food without needing any more food. So reducing that non-hungry or hedonistic is what is called hunger. Common side effects. So these are things that you might find, and they are sometimes with your stomach and sometimes with your body. You'll feel a few symptoms associated with taking the medication. They can be a bit of nausea, vomiting in a few cases, diarrhea, sometimes constipation, reflux, and fatigue. So these are not pleasant symptoms, but the good news is they're often temporary, and a lot of the time they just can improve on their own without any help, and it's just as the body adjusts to the medication. But if you are finding that you're struggling with a few of these symptoms, here are some extra strategies for you to help with your management of them. So the way that the medication works, you're going to need smaller meals. So just shrinking the size of your meals and having more meals more frequently throughout the day. You still need to get the nutrition, but you don't want to have big meals. So smaller meals, eating more regularly will help you still get the nutrition in. And counterintuitively, if you have something in your stomach, it will make you feel less nauseous. So you're just starting even with something small and easy like dry toast, or even if it's dry crackers or something like that, a banana, or sometimes apple juice is well tolerated in the morning to just get ahead of that nausea. Ensure that you always are having your fluids. So there is a recommendation to have 2 litres of water each day. And when you're eating and appetite goes down, so does your water intake sometimes. So just increasing that to the 2 litres minimum. If you get to 3 litres, fantastic. And that will help with constipation and definitely settling a few of those symptoms. Enjoy a wide range of plant-based foods, and that's because they do have a good amount of nutrition in them, and it also has a large amount of fiber in them to help the bowels, constipation and things like that, to alleviate that sort of a thing. Same with your water will help with your constipation. Limit the intake of fatty foods. So high fatty foods definitely have a natural effect on the body to slow down digestion naturally, because it takes a little time for it to be absorbed. So if you already have slow gastric emptying or slow transition through the stomach, if you have high fat foods, that's going to make it a little bit longer. So if you're experiencing any reflux, just reducing those high fat foods. Enjoy your food and pay attention to your hunger signal. So start when you're really just needing that food and it's a meal time, and then slowly eat until you are satisfied. So that last point is stop eating when you are comfortably satisfied. So that will, even if the end of the meal isn't, sometimes we don't listen to our body and we just use that plate being empty as the end of our meal, but paying attention and stopping before that empty plate, even before it's empty, is a good thing, because then you can just pay attention to that natural hunger signals and things. Because if you're thinking about food wastage, it's on the plate, even if it goes into your tummy, or you put it away for later, or you put it in the bin, it's already aside. You don't have to eat it now. So just one last thing that I like to say on this slide is just to make sure that it's really important to eat. A lot of the time when we want to lose weight, we think, okay, we'll restrict and we will skip meals. This is a great thing, yoo-hoo. I won't have that energy going in. However, we do still need to eat for normal body functioning and to get the nutrition in. And people, about 20% of individuals taking GLP-1 medications do become malnourished within a year of taking them. So it is important, and we'll talk through a little bit of that today in nutrition basics about why it's important to eat. Now, just on a serious note, there are some serious side effects, adverse effects that you can experience on this medication. It's really important to watch out for. Gastroparesis is a big word, but that's really about your food not being digested or absorbed well by the body, and it will either come up or out quite quickly, associated with a lot of pain, nausea. If it comes out looking undigested, that's probably not a good thing, and especially if it's associated with some pain, particularly bleeding, you need to definitely see a health professional pretty quickly on that. Pancreatitis is another one that can happen, and that's just where your insulin comes out of. So that's your pancreas. So if it gets inflamed, that is a little red flag that you need to stop. It can be associated with similar really severe vomiting and pain, uncomfortable symptoms like that, and you need to see a doctor straight away. Gallstones, that is something that is a risk factor for anyone losing weight or lowering their fat intake in their diet, and that's just because gallstones are, your gallbladder is where you do digest your fat, and if it's not used as much, some of the bile it stays in there, so it will form stones, and that will be quite painful, and that's usually associated with a fatty meal, or sometimes when you're eating you'll get really bad nausea, again some uncomfortable gastrointestinal symptoms, and that needs to be looked at by a doctor. And lastly, it's medullary thyroid cancer. Now, if you have a family history, you're exempt from the program, but if you develop a lump in the neck and maybe your voice goes hoarse or you've got a persistent cough, it's not painful, but it does need to be checked straight away. And that's all for the side effects there. But just thinking about your medication and thinking of it as an effective tool, GLP-1 medication doesn't lose weight just by taking injections, but it provides the right conditions, as I mentioned, to make your weight loss possible. Weight loss is still a result of you making and changing your habits and making really good health habits moving forward. It's a tool to use. So when you're thinking of your GLP-1 medication, long term is the way you really want to look at it. It didn't come on that quickly, and you really want it to come off about the same pace as what it came on. You really want to lose fat stores, and that's what will improve your health, and you don't want to lose your lean body mass or your muscles. So if you're losing quite quickly, and that would be 2 kilos a week, around about that is likely going to be muscle loss. So you really want something like a 0.25 to about 1 kilogram a week, and that will make sure that it is your fat mass that you're losing and not muscle mass. So in that sort of a circumstance, thinking that it's a slower process, think about your why. So really keeping yourself on track, using that why as motivation to keep going. Maybe it's that you want more flexibility or stability in your joints, you're getting a little bit of pain there, you want to run around with your grandchildren, you want a longevity, whatever it is that you want most out of this weight loss journey is what you need to focus on. The importance of these non-weight health indicators are so important, because stepping on the scales and not seeing big weight losses, it can be disappointing. Maybe you've got a plateau, but it's really not a plateau. Maybe there's other health benefits that you can look at, and they could be, an improved mood or better sleep. You're physically active and it's easier, or you want to do more physical activity. There's definitely clarity in the mental and stress, anxiety, and things that you can cope with better. So lots of different things. You step on the scales, you don't see a number, but you put your tape measure around your waist and you've lost centimeters. So it's not always going to be on the scales, but there's so many other indicators of health that can come from your changes on your GLP-1 medications. So what you can expect is approximately 5% of your body weight loss, and you will get 5 to 10% gives a massive amount in your health, in terms of health benefits. But obviously clients have been losing a lot more. But yeah, just giving you a bit of a realistic view and making sure you've got your long-term goal eyes on. While I was doing my research, I found this beautiful acronym MEAL, and that is giving a few other extra tips to management while on your GLP-1 medication. So you've got muscle maintenance is a really important part of GLP-1 medications and weight loss. So just making sure you're getting enough protein. So protein is a big important part of your diet. If you don't get enough, your body will lose muscle, and it will show on the scales as big weight loss, but it's not a healthy one, and you can find it hard to build back your muscle if you lose it. Another way to maintain it is to do strength training exercises, and it's recommended to do 2 per week. The energy balance, which I'll talk a little bit about in our talk today, but the energy balance is just getting the right balance. So not too much energy, like less energy to be burnt off than what you need. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but getting the energy balance in, lower the energy and more energy out. So activities and being mindful of what is going in. Avoiding side effects, so management using those strategies that I mentioned, making sure you're getting your water, being on top of your constipation and things like that. If it starts to slow down, like it's expected that you might have a smaller amount of stool to be passed, but if it's harder to push or anything like that, then it's, get onto that straight away, either by seeing your GP and getting some medication, but also definitely watching your fibre and your water. Watching any nausea and things like that, and just trying to manage that with those strategies. And then the liquid intake, that's trying to get to that 2 litres of water or liquid. 3 or more is good as well. So that's our acronym. And let's get on to today's nutrition topic today. So nutrition basics is what we're going to start with. So what is healthy eating and how did it get so confusing? So a lot of times it is a little bit confusing, and it's really important that we make sure that it's evidence-based information that we are following. A lot of people can give diet advice, but really it's important to get the right type so that you know that you're following a healthy weight or a healthy diet. And I suppose, really, what does diet mean? I mean, in my line of work, I'm a dietitian. Diet to me actually means everything that a person consumes in the way of food for healthy living. But that word has been used differently, and sometimes it's maybe thought of as a restriction thing. And that can be, to me, anybody on a weight loss diet, I suppose if you really think about it, it's a little bit less than what you need to survive each day in an effort to get weight loss. And I mean, we've all seen that, like when we get sick, our appetite goes down, we lose a little bit of weight while we are unwell. But of course, when we come back to being well again, we go back up to what we call our set point, which is a nice weight that we've been at for most of our life. In terms of diets, it can mean a Mediterranean diet, which is a healthy way of eating. But yeah, in this sense, it's just really thinking about the word diet as everything that you eat and consume in a day. And over the decades, there's been a lot of talk about restricting and losing weight. And I'll talk a little bit about how it's kind of failing us, the word diet or weight loss. So when we're looking at the word, and I mean, it has been like a couple of decades long where you're thinking of low fat or the Atkins diet or any other sort of new diet that's come along, and it's about restricting certain types of foods or always being hungry or having less. But in this webinar, I'm actually going to talk about eating more and making sure you're getting enough. So flipping that around a little bit. So I've got another quote. I like to leave quotes. So Michael Pollan is an influential journalist, and he has a book. And from his book, I took this quote, and it says, "Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants." So keeping that in mind, it's quite a good quote. I like that. Kind of takes all the pressure off anything. Now, this diet cycle that I was talking about, this you might sort of resonate with this a little bit. So starting at the top, it usually starts with a desire to lose weight, and then we start restricting foods, particularly starting in the morning or something like that, especially foods that we like. We start to diet restrict, and that increases our hunger and our cravings. So always thinking about food, what will I have next? I'm really hungry, all that sort of thing. But then willpower will only get you so far, and then you give into cravings, you lose control around your food, and possibly you eat what you were telling yourself that was not allowed to be eaten, and you don't only eat what you would have eaten, you eat a little bit more. So that associated feelings of guilt, shame, and regain, and a vow to do better, and then you're at the beginning again, possibly at the weight you were, or possibly a little bit more. So this has actually been a studied cycle, and that's where sort of weight loss diets have been letting us down a little bit. So really it's about stepping away from this and giving yourself permission to eat healthy foods. I even said this in the introduction, it's about calories in versus calories out, but it's not that simple. Very rarely do we sit down and use the calculations to find out exactly what our calorie or kilojoule intake is. And I definitely don't sit down and I don't work out what my calories are out. So it's a good basis for it, but to be exact science, it's not really that simple. With our food labeling, we actually have about a 20% allowance either way, which is quite inaccurate to calculate. But then, some foods such as nuts might be a little bit higher than that. You absorb a lot less than what was originally thought. So it is helpful, but it's not really that simple, but we can make it a little bit simpler. And that's where our Australian Guide to Healthy Eating comes in. So this is just a lovely place to start. And when I went to school, it was actually a pyramid, and now it has changed to a circle. So I don't know if you've seen this before, but this is our adults Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. It does also come in one for breastfeeding, during pregnancy, and anyone with children. You can get these on the internet, but the one that I'll be showing you today is the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, and it's a fold-out brochure. It's got some information on the side, and I'll go through what you'll find in the middle. There's a little link there as well on the slides that you can follow to get your own copy and print it out if you like. So this is it's a plate format, so a circle with percentages. You can see there's 5 core food groups. You've got the grains and cereals. You've also got the vegetables. So they're both about a third of the plate. And then on the bottom, you've got the last third, and that's equal portions of fruit, milk, and meat alternatives. Now, they're not any less important, but there's just a smaller amount that you need in the diet to get everything that you need. So instead of looking at what you need in protein, all the different vitamins and minerals, zinc or vitamin C and things like that, you don't have to worry about it. If you eat according to the guidelines, it's going to cover off your nutritional needs without having to go into too much detail. That's what I love about the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. You can see out to the side we've got fluids, and mostly water is what is recommended to replace. We're 70% water. We need to replace it. It's needed for all our absorption and transport of the nutrients as it goes in the body, and also elimination of wastes. Down the bottom again, you've got your small amount of fats, because they are super important. They do have a role as well in the diet. So a smaller amount, not so much a part or a section needed in the guidelines, but they are included. And then down the bottom, it's not to discount that there are some foods that don't fit into the guidelines, and they're called our sometimes foods, or the foods that we recommend in small amounts, and that's just because they have a lower nutritional value and higher energies, usually with salt, sugars, and saturated fats in them. So they are part of a healthy diet, and they are pictured there, but they don't actually have a requirement each day. So inside, you actually will have, when you open it up, a little sort of like a graph there. Sorry, I was trying to find the right words. So you've got different requirements in different stages of life. And you've also got different requirements for men and women. So inside the brochure, you have men in the top row and women in the second row, and then different ages require different amounts. So as I go through, you'll be able to find your gender and your age, and just find as you go how many servings of each of these foods you'll need throughout the day. Across the top, this is our grain and cereal foods. Mostly whole grain is what is recommended, and the high fiber cereal varieties. There are a few sneaky ones that you wouldn't expect to be included in there, but it has standard serves across the top. So one slice of bread is one serve, a half a cup of any cooked rice, pasta, and that will include noodles, buckwheat, semolina, quinoa, all those sorts of things. Your cereals are in this group, which are 2/3 of a cup is one serve, and then a half a cup of your pasta there. There are other things in there which are made from grains, and they're down the bottom. There are 3 crisp breads as one serve, 1 crumpet, and 1 small English muffin or scone is also included in this. You can see people are recommended to eat about 6 to 3 a day, depending on your age and stage of your gender and stage of life. But it's one of the sort of food groups that gets a bad rap, and probably the first that people might try and cut down on. But knowing that there are so many good sources of B vitamins in this group, they also increase the bulk of stool, and also reduce risk of colorectal cancer, and lower cholesterol nice and naturally lower your heart disease risk. So it's a really important food group, and it does fuel our body for exercise and activities of daily living. It's sort of like our petrol. Going on to veggies and legumes and beans. So across the top, you've got your serving sizes again. You've got your half a cup of cooked veggies, half medium potato, or again, half a cup of any canned veggies. But when it comes to your salad veggies, you can see there's a cup. So it's just to do with your density of those foods. So you'll see that salad actually takes up a lot more room. So there's a little bit more air in there, and that's why it's a different. What you can have down the standard serves down there, nothing really out of the ordinary. And what I would say is just a big variety, taking lots of different colors. All the different veggies colors have a different vitamin or mineral in them. So trying to get lots of colors of the rainbow throughout your diet. And to be honest, it doesn't matter whether it is from the freezer or from a can or fresh, or, it doesn't have to be fancy. Anything will do. Just chucking extra veggies within any of your meals works to increase this this food group. You can see over in your serves per day, they go from probably 5 to 6, but this is the one that there is no limit on. You can eat as much as you like, and there will be no weight gain from more vegetables. There is never going to be. So anytime you want to increase the volume of foods that you're eating on your plate, you can throw any number of vegetables on there to have it overflowing, and it's not going to increase your weight. It's actually associated. The more you eat, the lower the weight is associated with it. It lowers your risk of heart disease, many cancers, by having a lot of antioxidants in there, and they're rich in vitamins. So very important vitamins like iron, zinc, vitamin C and folate. They definitely work on your immunity. Next group is fruit. Across the board, you can see everybody is recommended to have 2. It's about the size of your fist. Bananas have gone really big lately, like as we've gone on. So the Cavendish bananas are more like 2 serves of fruit. So even cutting it in half, but your lady fingers, they're 1. If it's a sort of a smaller fruit like kiwis or plums, 2 is a serve, or a cup of your canned fruit, and try and make sure that those are actually in fruit juices, we don't need the extra sugar or syrup on those. And the other thing in this group is you can include some fruit juice or dried fruit as well, but they say occasionally, and that is just because about 5 oranges will go into 125 mils of fruit juice, but you'd never sit down and eat the 5 oranges. They've also taken out the fiber, so it's not a whole food. And with the dried fruit, it can stick to teeth and it can cause cavities. So there's 30 grams of your dried fruit also occasionally can take up one of these serves. So they're really good for bowels, good source of fiber, reduction in some chronic diseases, heart disease and cancers, and it's good in health, maintaining a nice healthy weight, a natural source of sugar, and it also has a lot of vitamin C and folate in there. This group is the milk and milk alternatives, which is a really great group. They have a lot of, there's very, very rarely a particular food that has as much nutrition in it as this milk and dairy. So the standard serves are across the top. You've got 1 cup of milk or soy drinks. You've got 2/3 of a cup or 200 grams of yogurt and 2 slices of your pre-cut cheese or a matchbox size of hard cheese. A couple of extra ones are ricotta cheese or buttermilk is in there as well. They're an excellent source of your calcium, and they do reduce your risk of a lot of different health conditions. So blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes. So there's a lot in this benefit of having this core group. If you do have lactose intolerance or something like that, the alternatives are a really good substitute for you, but just making sure if you are having those, you will look on your packaging and just make sure it's fortified with calcium. Otherwise, it's not meeting the requirements for this group. But it is a good source of protein. It's got iodine, B2 and B12 in this particular food group. You can see it starts off at 2.5 serves, but as women age, and also 70 or plus men, the requirement does go up, and that's just due to hormonal changes and the body's ability to absorb the calcium. So making sure you get 4 serves. And at that time, I'm pretty sure your grain foods go down and this one goes up. So they're nice forms of carbohydrates that just give you that energy to go. Your petrol in the car. But mostly reduced fat is what is recommended. And this is our last one, and it's the lean meat and meat alternatives. So you've got poultry, fish, eggs, tofu, nuts, seeds, legumes. So legumes and beans are actually in 2 different groups. They're a good source of protein, but the portion size will change. So your portions for this depends on how much protein are within that product. Your red meat is 65 grams. Your chicken's a little bit more, so 80 grams. Your fish, 100 grams, you've got 2 eggs or a cup of your baked beans. If you're looking at other alternatives, the tofu is another one. That's a meat alternative, and it's 170 grams for 1 portion of your protein. That's quite a lot compared to your 100 grams of your fish or a small can of your fish. And the 30 grams of nuts, peanuts, seeds, any almond butter or other nut butters with no added salt. So this is really where you want to maintain your lean body mass and getting that protein within the diet. They range from 3 to 2 serves depending on your age, and it's really a good source of protein for immunity. It's containing your protein, your iron, your B12, those vitamins. And with your nuts and seeds, it's also got some fatty acids and vitamin E, which is a fat-soluble vitamin. There is a recommendation within this group to have about 2 serves of seafood or fish each week, and that's for the omega-3 fatty acids. So you can have a can of tuna or salmon for lunch, or maybe a dinner meal of prawns, whatever you feel like throughout the week. So putting this all together, it probably sounds like a lot more food than you're used to. You're thinking, goodness me, how am I going to eat all of that? We'll look through a day of eating in just a moment, but putting it all together on a balanced plate, just making sure that it's okay to eat differently every day, and each meal is a little bit different, but a really good idea to keep in the back of your mind of a balanced plate is this one with a half of your plate. If you cut your plate into quarters, 2 of those quarters are your vegetables. So that is any leafy greens, carrots and things like that, as you can see on that plate. Tomatoes, cucumbers, anything like that. Then you've got that other quarter of your plate is a starch. Now, some starches are from your vegetable group. So that would be your potato, your corn, or your sweet potato. That can go in that starch part. Or that can be your grain food, so your noodles, your rice, things like that. And that's, about a quarter of the plate. And then the quarter of your plate for your protein. And that can be something that you use as a guide for lunch and dinner. Breakfast is a little bit different. You are breaking a fast after not eating over the night. So often you have a lot of sort of carbohydrates. So maybe a lot of carbs, be cereal or toast, and a little bit of protein. Maybe you'll have eggs, or even your milk is a good source of protein, and yogurt. But it is a good way to make sure your meals are nice and balanced and you're walking away from your table feeling nice and satisfied. So your veggies obviously are the filling part. They're not going to sustain you for long. If you had a whole plate of veggies and you walked away, you'd probably be hungry in about 30 minutes, even probably less. Your protein, that's a good amount of protein to keep your muscles, and that actually helps you feel a bit satisfied after your meal. So having that protein core within a meal is a bit of satisfaction and keeps you going for longer. And that last part is your starch. So that is what is your fuel. That is going to fuel your body to do your activities of daily living. It's to, be able to make your bed, get up and do all your things you need to do, your gardening, to walk around, have your physical activity and things like that. So it's really important to have a bit of each of those. A couple of other options there. You've got some lunch options that I've popped in there, and that's obviously your brekkie with the cereal. I just want to point out that there is what we've gone through today is serves within the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, but then there is also another thing, which is a portion. So what we're talking about here are portions, and your vegetable portions on your balanced plate are 2 serves of your Australian Guide to Healthy Eating vegetables, sorry. Sorry about that. But yeah, so a portion is different to a serve, and within a meal, you can have a couple of serves to be your portion. So that would be a breakfast. Maybe 1 portion of cereal isn't enough. You feel like it's probably needing to be 2, that's fine. You just have 2 portions of your grains and cereals, which would be likely if you were going to have toast anyway. You'd have probably 2 pieces. So just to point out that your portions are different to serves, and you don't have to eat the same every day. And sometimes each meal changes as well. You'll have more pasta. On a night you might have spaghetti, maybe you'll have a salad at lunch, and it's just to make it work for you. If you're feeling hungry at the end of the day and you're kind of looking in the fridge and you're not sure what you want, you can have a think. Have I had much bread today? Maybe I'll be looking for crackers on cheese or something like that, but it can help you to make yourself feel a little bit more satisfied using those portions. All right, following the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, this is a day of eating for a male aged 19 to 50. You've got your wholemeal toast. I don't have to go through it all, but it's a nice, I have showed this slide before last time, but it's a lot of food. You're not going too far without having any food, and it's still within the amount of food that a person would eat. So, but you are having regular meals. So you've got your brekkie, you've got a nice morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack, meal, and if you feel like it, an evening snack as well with some yogurt and fruit with plenty of water throughout the day. Looking at, so men need a little bit extra protein. You've got your nuts, your baked beans for brekkie, and your roast beef sandwich and your fish. And then your female, you have a cereal whole grain breakfast with some milk, some yogurt, some meat on your sandwich, nuts as well, and then some dinner meal with a bit of kidney beans and mince at the night time. But again, you've still got, more every couple of hours an opportunity to eat, still lower energies going in and nice and healthy, and covering off all the nutrition you need for the day. So just a little tip, mention of the sometimes food. So these are special consideration food just because they contain a little bit of extra fat, sugar, and sometimes salt and alcohol. They're considered discretionary foods, and there's no recommendation to have any of them within the diet at all. There's no need for them. They're often higher in kilojoules than the food groups, and they're low in nutrients. So they'll often take up the place of other really important nutrients. So if you're thinking about when you have sort of, if we just say a pie for lunch, then you're missing out on the vegetables, the 2 bits of grainy bread, and a little portion of your meat there. So once you wipe that out, you're missing out on those essential nutrients, and possibly you can feel a little bit more full and you won't feel like afternoon tea. So it has an impact on the amount of nutrition that can go into the diet. So even reducing what you have at the moment by a small amount can have a big impact. So don't underestimate the difference you can make with small changes. It doesn't have to be a complete wipeout. There is room, especially if you're very active, you're very tall, you do need extra servings, and these can be part of the sometimes foods. But what I would recommend is mainly 0 is required, but up to 3. And those sometimes food can be considered maybe your party foods, because that's where we'll find them. They don't need to be within the cupboards, but when you're out and doing a special occasion or something like that, that's a great time to have those sorts of foods. And that is everything I've written down there. I'll just make another mention on the alcohol guidelines. This is the recommendations for healthy adults. There's no more than 10 standard drinks over the week and 4 in any one sitting. And as you can see, the standard drinks are over to the side. It depends on the amount of alcohol within the liquor that you're or the alcohol that you're having. So beer, you can have a little bit more if there's less alcohol, so 425, a little bit less if there's mid-strength and less if it's full strength. Regular cider is the same as being full strength beer. You've got your sparkling wine and your wines at about 13% per volume alcohol. About 100 mils is 1 serve, or 60 mils of your fortified wines, which include your sherry and your port. And your straight spirits is 1 standard drink, or 275 if it's a pre-mixed one. So the special considerations for this guideline is just that people under the age of 18 and anyone pregnant or breastfeeding are recommended not to drink. So again, how can eating more help you lose weight? So I just thought I would write down what you could see as a normal diet and what it may account to in kilojoules versus pretty much what you would see in the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. I kind of made it up a bit and then I worked it out to figure out how many kilojoules are in it. So if you're thinking I probably could have done this in 2 sections, but cereal with canned fruit, toast and juice for breakfast, a really great start to the day, kicking the body back into eating. You've got your crisp bread with cheese and tomato, a nice filling salad with beans, quinoa and avocado, nice dressing, nuts cappuccino, your full steak dinner with your Greek salad and roasted potato, and even an evening supper of yogurt and berries. But on the other hand of this guy here, he's having a smaller portion. These things are kind of a lot smaller looking. You've got a bacon and egg roll on the way to work or something like that from a takeaway place, and you've got a large caramel latte. You've got a small container of fried rice and a Diet Coke because he's just not got enough time. He just needs to eat and go. It's only tiny. Afternoon tea, can't quite make it through the day, so a large hazelnut coffee to keep him going. And then at night it's a fish and chips. So you can see where a lot of the time it will cut out those essential nutrients. There's not much in the way of veggies or fruit, and he skipped his mid-meals there. So but if I did calculate it all, it's 10,000 kilojoules, so over the estimated requirements for the day, and he feels a bit tired. And then you've got the guy who's been eating every 2 hours, feeling nice and full of fiber, and he's only taken in 8,700, and it seems like to me a lot more food. And those foods he can take and he doesn't have to eat if he's not hungry, but it's always there. You've got 6 opportunities to eat throughout the day. I just thought that was a good one. So health and weight. So consistent overconsumption of food will lead to an accumulation of weight at any age. So it's overconsumption of maybe kilojoules and anything we don't use, our body doesn't let it go. It converts it into fat and it stores it. So, but on the converse of that, like the alternative, like if you are under eating and skipping meals, not getting enough nutrition, it also has adverse health consequences as well. So you're decreasing your immunity, your ability to stay well and fight disease, or, you know, coughs and colds. If you do get them, you're at risk of low bone density. If you're not having enough calcium, that can cause osteoporosis and easy breaks of bones and things like that, or muscle depletion if you're not having your proteins, which can affect your flexibility and your stability and your strength. And also, I mean, if you don't have enough covering you, you can have like a little bit of susceptibility to chills, so hypothermia, if you don't have, you know, a little bit of insulation. So with putting all of this together, let's look at just some takeaway tips or some recommendations to cover off nutrition basics for tonight. So practical tips to take away: use the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating to fill your cupboards and pantries and have enough of those foods in there to eat within the dietary guidelines, making those your main meals for the day. Think of the term diet as everything you consume in a day, and not something that you have to use your willpower or use as a form of restriction. You will be able to eat, and there's no need to be hungry or feel deprived, and you will still lose weight. Having a nourishing and adequate filling breakfast is a top tip. Your body has gone into a little bit of a fast overnight when you go to sleep. Maybe you've finished eating around 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then you go to sleep, and then you don't eat again until the same time in the morning, or, you know, even a little later if you're waking and then eating after that. Give yourself a nice big nourishing breakfast within an hour of waking. That would be a really good tip. And stop when you're feeling satisfied. So, you know, if you have given yourself a portion and you're getting used to your new GLP-1 medication portion sizes, it's okay to put it away for later. Stop when you're comfortably satisfied, not overfull. And in terms of what you've read or heard tonight and watched, if you see something there that you want to try, go for the most easiest appealing change. So oftentimes we'll make it a little bit hard, but if you love, you know, low-fat yogurt, maybe trying a couple of times a week to add another portion of that. You haven't had your 4 serves if you're female and over 50. Maybe just trying a few low-fat yogurts, or maybe having like an iced coffee in the morning, or even a pick-me-up at 2 o'clock, just putting a little bit of, you know, hot water, a little bit of your freeze-dried coffee, filling that with milk, something like that. But anyway, take the most appealing change, and if you put it into sort of like an achievable goal, it will be a lot easier. So maybe you want to add some more grains in, and you think, yep, I'll do crackers for afternoon tea 3 times in the week. Small changes build up to a big result. So don't underestimate making those small changes and having the effects of them. So and that is the webinar for today. Thank you so much. And I'm going to open up for a bit of questions. If anybody has any questions that they would like to pop in the chat, I will see if any come through and see if I can answer any. Just waiting for a sec. No, I don't see any questions today. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, okay. Does alcohol make you susceptible to pancreatitis? Drinking alcohol, there are some, it does have an increased risk toward issues with your pancreas, but within safe limits, it will lower that risk. So having only 4 in any one sitting, and over a whole week having a maximum of 10 with a couple of alcohol-free days. Alcohol can be part of a healthy diet. I know Mediterranean diet is a great way of eating, and they definitely incorporate some red wine in that. So it can make you a bit more susceptible, but I hope that answered that question. A deficit. So hearing people say that they need to be in a deficit of energy, that is correct. Yes, your body will start to use the stores that it has, but it doesn't mean that you have to be starving or hungry to lose weight. Medication is a tool to do that. So just making sure that you're supplying your body with as much food as it needs. And a lot of the time, if we are overweight, we think restrict, and that is not the case. So just getting comfortable using the foods from the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating does have a naturally lower energy content with more fiber and nutrition rich. So you should not be hungry creating that deficit, if that makes sense. How long do you stay on the injections? It's a long-term thing, and it could be ongoing. Possibly you go to a maintenance dose, but it is individual depending on how much weight you have to lose. And it's something that you can work with your GP on. They often go down. You will start on a dose and obviously go up in dose until you find a good amount for you. But it is a slow process. You can stay on the starting dose until you find your plateau and go up. But when you get to where you want to be, it's about using that and taking it back to a dose where you can maintain. I hope that answers that question. There was one just about a surgery coming up, and I would definitely talk to your doctor about that one. I can't really talk so much on the dosing or anything like that. So I will, I'll send you back to the GP for that one. You got to goal weight. Yes, going on a low dose for your maintenance. What about high protein oat milk? Okay, if you're high protein oat milk, protein is great and definitely required. You need to meet your protein serves of your protein. Enough protein to maintain your body mass. But if you have too much, you're going to make it turn to fat anyway. So just having enough protein. If you're feeling like you're not getting enough from your protein in the breakfast, having a high protein milk snack can make you feel a bit more satisfied. So I love all those new high protein milks and yogurts and things like that. But yeah, having too much of any one nutrient and your body doesn't need it, it will just turn to fat. Is prune juice okay? Yeah, definitely. Love prune juice. You can use prunes, you can use prune juice. Pear juice is a great one for me. They're the first steps. I love food first when you're managing your constipation. If it starts to get to a point where it's taken hold, it is something you'll need to go and see a pharmacist or a doctor about. Motocol's a really good one, but just, get onto that straight away. Meal plan suggestions. I love this. Meal plan suggestions are great, but what I would suggest is using the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating to decide what you like. Often if we do give a meal plan, it's a bit restrictive. It's one of those things that if you don't like something, you start to have it and you're like, well, I don't really like it, but food is there to be enjoyed. And using these rough guidelines, I find, is a little bit better than telling exactly what to eat. You can use those 2 days of healthy eating and adjust whatever you like. Maybe you don't like the cereal and you want to go for eggs on toast, or, and variety is definitely the spice of life. So having the same thing every day is fine, but mixing it up is even better. You'll get more nutrition from a lot of different things. I hope that would make sense, but I don't want you to try and fit to something that isn't developed especially for you, because it will start to, make you feel like you can't eat. And tapping into what you need and that appetite and getting back on board with just giving yourself what it needs, because your body's very smart, would be something that I would recommend, and just giving yourself the freedom of that. But if you need any other help, let us know. Thank you so much for all those questions. That was really good. I hope I've answered them well. If not, you can let us know. We love feedback. Please reach out to advice@apex.com.au. Advice@apex.au. And if you are interested in seeing anyone for further health support, we've got dietitians, exercise physiologists, physiotherapists, doctors, psychologists available for your support. So you can definitely reach out on the advice@apex.com.au. Anyway, it's on the bottom there. But thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to seeing you in a fortnight for another health webinar. Thanks, everybody.